So we're on week 4 of this Rhythm and Resilience series. For though most of you know that I kept hearing the word, Michelle, you've got to find a rhythm to have resilience through this reset. And so that's what I did. And so I thought if I needed it, so do the people that I get a chance to guide. So I want to start with our, just everybody to take it, maybe just take a deep breath. You've probably been running, and as I think there's the anxiousness now of starting to ramp back up. And what does that really mean? So let's just everybody take a deep breath. And I like to say you take it in your nose and pretend you have elephant nostrils. Take it all the way in from your toes, all the way up your nose, and then blow it all the way out. And kind of shake it out and just shake it off. We had a great guest on Friday, Edie Varley. She shared a lot of nuggets. And I want to share the quote that she gave us. I only took half the quote. It's, I try to put a smile on God's face. And today's guest, I don't know your faith, Kathy, but I do know that you do this every day. Today's guest is Kathy Nelson. She's with the Kansas City Sports Commission and the foundation. Kathy works to promote Kansas City sports locally and nationally with the goal of attracting, retaining, and facilitating sports events and organizations. So you can imagine how this has impacted her organization. She helps the bi-state region realize the economic, social, and community building, keywords, community building, benefits of sports. In 2016, hard to believe it's been 4 years already, Kathy was selected to serve as the National Association of Sports Commission Board of Directors. How long have you been head of the Sports Commission?
In Kansas City here, I've 2011, so 9 years.
Has it been 9 years already? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it feels like forever. I actually got the pleasure of working with Kathy through the Win for KC Foundation, Win for KC organization, which she's as underneath her umbrella. But I also want to say she sits on the Big Shifts Foundation board as well, and we're so grateful to have her. So Kathy, welcome to the Rhythm and Resilience series.
Thank you. What an honor.
Well, I'm just thrilled to get to share you with our audience today. I'm curious, how have you been? And this is Monday Motivation. So each day we have a theme. And so I'm intentionally picked you for Monday Motivation. And so how are you staying motivated during this time of COVID?
Oh, I think there's quite a few different ways. One, my faith, what you just mentioned. One of our pastors a while back, actually, sadly, we were attending the funeral for one of our friends of our daughters, a suicide. And he made the statement, the worst thing is never the last thing. So that keeps me motivated right now, that what we're dealing with, something will come of this. And I think that really helps drive me every day to go, what are we doing? What's our impact? And, how's my family doing? But knowing that the worst thing is not the last thing is very important to me right now. I also think the word fear has become so real to me these last few weeks. And it's not necessarily fear of getting sick or what's going to happen, but with that virus, but it's the fear of how do we keep our company going? How do I continue to employ a staff? How do I help all of them get through this? And there's that fear of the unknown. 6 months from now, will sporting events be back? Will we host our events, which help fund the organization? So that fear, as crazy as it sounds, really drives me to figure all this out.
Well, speaking of figuring it out, COVID-19 seriously broke into the Kansas City area. News, talked about news on the back end because of your background, on the front end because of your experience. Wow, Big 12 weekend.
Oh.
We put a lot of effort into, because the women's Big 12 is in Kansas City as well. Talk about that week for you.
I'll do this without crying this time. I've told the story a few times. So the week leading up to Big 12 men's and women's basketball championships, we are very, very busy. We host 14 different events besides the games, from VIP parties, to a reading challenge. There's just so many components that go into that basketball championship. And this was the first year to bring women back with the men since 2012. So our staff had the work cut out for all of us. And on Sunday, leading into the week, I started to not feel very good. I started to feel like something wasn't quite right, a little bit of a fever. And I woke up Monday morning with the high fever of 101. And I called our staff. We always have a Monday morning staff meeting. And I said, we tell everyone, if you're sick, stay home. If you don't feel good, stay home. It's fine. We'll get through whatever, but don't come to the office. And so I said, I'm going to eat my words here, and I'm staying home on Monday of Big 12 week to make sure that whatever I have doesn't infect anyone. And I started to get worse. So I had to call the commissioner because we were to have had meetings and everything else. So the day goes on and I'm getting more sick. Finally, he calls me and he says, do you think you have this? And I'm like, no, they're absolutely not. And he said, weren't you just in Seattle? And I said, yeah, we'd gone to Seattle, Washington to visit our oldest daughter. I go, but I'm sure that's not what this is. Well, sure enough, I ended up in the emergency room Monday night, and they said they're going to do a few things. And I tested negative for pneumonia. They did an x-ray, and then they did a flu test. And he said, if this comes back negative, we're going to assume you have COVID-19. And at that time, I don't even think it had been called COVID-19. It was just coronavirus. So I called the commissioner. He says, if you're positive for this, we're going to have to shut down the championship. And because you've infected all of us, because we'd been with them all the week before. Well, now I'm thinking I'm going to make national headlines because I have the virus potentially, and now they're going to have to shut this whole thing down. That was Monday. So I'm in the emergency room. About 45 minutes later, the test came back, and the doctor says, you're positive for influenza A. And everyone starts clapping and cheering. I'm thinking, how crazy is that we're celebrating the flu? And at that time, you don't really appreciate the heaviness of what this virus is. So end up then, of course, went back home and end up by Tuesday night, fever had broken and I'm feeling a lot better. So it wasn't until Thursday morning that I actually got to go back downtown to see the staff of Big 12 and our staff. And boy, what a heavy feeling that was on Wednesday. And I'd been on the phone hours and hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with the Big 12, trying to figure out how do we handle this. So Wednesday we played in front of fans with the men. We had 2 games Wednesday night, had actually great crowds. But then the reality started to hit and realize of the Power 5 conferences, someone was going to decide this. And we didn't want to be the first to cancel, and we certainly didn't want to be the last. But it really felt very heavy at that time because we knew the amount of revenue it drives for our city. And all I could think of is, if we make this decision, I feel responsible for that. The servers at Johnny's and the beer vendors and the restaurants and hotels, I feel that responsibility. And if we opt to cancel this, how is this going to play out? And obviously we did the right thing. I believe that in my heart. We decided to cancel the championships. And now looking back, I can't imagine had we not decided to cancel. So it's funny in retrospect how you really kind of take a breath and go, my gosh, that really was not a big deal whatsoever.
Well, you think about the word rhythm, and I got Joni on the call, and Joni's a Michigan State fan. Yeah, I see that back there. Joni's the reason why I got to go, and I think Michelle's a KU fan. The reason I got to go to the Maui Classic when I was in Maui. And Kathy, you're a Wildcat fan, is that correct? Should I say that?
Because our daughter is wrapping up her junior year at K-State. Yes.
Yeah. So we talk about the word rhythm, which is so important in basketball. So great analogy, but the resilience. So we like to celebrate, guide, connect, which provide hope. We're celebrating you for having the weight of that on you. Especially, I had no idea you were sick that week. So to be making these decisions when you're not sick, holy sugar. I can't imagine that. So share a little bit about how you're how you've kind of talked through the city and with this. So with some of the resilience and some of the words that you had because you were such a great coach. How did you do that?
Do you mean during the actual championship?
Yeah, during that week, which was, the stress level had to be 99 out of 50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The focus was on it. It never came down to money. The focus never came down to impact and fallout. The focus came down to, we're making this decision for the student athletes and selfishly for our staff to do the right thing. So we're a small nonprofit, or staff of 15. And I kept thinking, if any one of them were to be sick, I would be devastated. They're my work family. So how do I say, of course, we want to continue with basketball because we need this money, and yet risk that. It was never a decision. And so I think there was never an option to expose anyone. The Big 12 staff, same thing. They're a small staff. By no means did they want to infect or even run that potential of something happening. So I think that, the heaviness felt like, I know we're going to make this decision because of the people we care about. The heaviness was, we know that the impact of this for years to come, that ripple impact, because that week typically is our Super Bowl every year in our city for our downtown community when it comes to economic activity. But it still came down to the conversation is doing the right thing at all times for the people you care about.
How did the coaches take it? Were they just gracious? Or?
I think we were all in shock, and I wasn't able to catch any of the coaches, but I'll never forget when we made that decision and standing inside of Sprint Center, and the teams were already there. So the 4 teams for those 2 morning games, the first game was at 11. Those young men came out of the locker room with their heads hung low in tears, because a lot of them, that was going to be their last opportunity to play with their teammates. That's where it got very emotional for me, realizing that the decision that we had to be made, the impact of just one person changing the outcome for the rest of their life, of saying, I didn't get to play my final game. If you're not a collegiate athlete, you don't maybe appreciate that, but to see them emotionally drained, and not even because they were sweaty or whatever, just the whole thing of, I'm not going to ever get to replay this game and I'm done, was very hard to see.
Well, I've heard some people say that you and your team avoided a Mardi Gras moment.
Yeah. It didn't feel that way at the time, but looking back, can you imagine 4 days together with 19,000 people inside of a venue? It was just, and now there was no other decision to be made. I mean, it was so obvious now, but at that time, what you just asked about the coaches, I don't know that any of us really could see. Like, we thought, okay, well, we just won't go to work next week. We'll see you in 2 weeks, is what it felt like at that time. So I think just what you just said about Mardi Gras, you're like, yeah, because we're ready to celebrate basketball. And suddenly we weren't celebrating basketball, but it was going to be okay because we'd be together in a couple more days. And now looking back, that was just such a small decision. It's crazy.
Such a small decision in such a big scheme of life. Thinking about decisions and thinking about your life, I want to celebrate you and talk about the pivot, because a lot of people weren't on when we were kind of chatting before the call started. Talk about your career in news. You brought up news.
Yeah. So I out of school, ended up getting on right away with Channel 4, WDAF TV. Back then it was NBC. Fox Television didn't exist, so I'm totally showing my age. But I spent 12 great years for Channel 4. And actually, the day my husband and I were married was when NBC switched to Fox. So I always know for Channel 4, the history, they just celebrated 25 years of Fox because we just had our 25th wedding anniversary. But that was a great 12 years. I'd been a reporter for a short time. I was a producer. I ended up working in the creative services. I worked in sales, but in news and sports and writing and editing. So all of my skills that I'm able to use now in my job, definitely I learned there. And then I left there to help create a 24-hour sports channel called Metro Sports, was owned by Time Warner Cable, and was able to launch that along with a few other guys that I have a lot of respect for and still do. We still stay in touch. But so I spent 12 years at Channel 4 and then 11 years actually at Metro Sports. And when I left there, my role was to launch sports television stations in other cities. So I was managing 11 other cities, getting them started launching a 24-hour sports channel when I had the opportunity to go work at the Sports Commission as the Win for KC director, and actually turned it down a couple times. For those that know Patty Phillips, it was going to be big shoes to fill. And I was on the board of directors for Win for KC at the time, and actually chaired for the Sports Commission a couple committees as well. So took all my knowledge working in television and in the sports industry and thought, well, here we go. And here I am. So I took over for Win for KC in 2010. And then Kevin Gray, the president of the Sports Commission, passed away about 6 months after I started. And then was ultimately hired to replace him in November of 11.
You sure have made us proud, that's for sure.
That means a lot. Thanks.
You got Michelle saying yes. Hey, by the way, Michelle, I can't be remiss in telling you happy birthday. It's a special one, isn't it? And you're celebrating with us. How great is that? It's a special one with how great is that? You know, in the bio, you talk about community building. And I did a Facebook Live today talking about LTRs, lifetime relationships. And I have a couple lifetime relationships that kind of tie into you. One is, Chris Hernandez. We've been friends for 28, 29 years. And then Pam Davis, who helped start Fox News here in Kansas City also. So it's when you bring that back, you just can't, all the ways that life connects is so fascinating. I want you to dive into community building and what can we as community citizens be doing to help support this community building effort that the Sports Commission has going on.
So we focus on 3 different words in our office. We focus on participation. We want you to participate in a sport. We want you to be active. We want you to engage in some type of sport or fitness activity. So I think as you're following us on social media, Win for KC and the Sports Commission, get active with us. We have opportunities for that. And so that's one way to come together as a community. What that looks like in the future, we're still trying to figure that out, both locally and nationally with other sports commissions, of how do we bring people back together, whether it's to run or through our camps or triathlon. So participation is key when you think of community participating together. Another one is spectating, just like with Big 12. We need you to support our athletes. We need you to buy a ticket to a Sporting KC game or a Royals game. We want you to go cheer on high school and collegiate events and athletes. So participating in sport, but then in spectating sports is key, because you buying a ticket, the ripple effect of that, then you're going to go out and if you go to Sprint Center to watch a basketball game, you'll pay for parking and you'll pay for the ticket, and there's tax on that. And then of course there's food and beverage. So all of that helps our community so much by you just making that decision to go spectate. And then lastly is celebrating. So we want you to participate. We want you, of course, to spectate, but then to celebrate what our community is doing through sport. Our vision statement is making a better Kansas City through sport. And that can mean numerous things. But by you celebrating sports in our city truly brings us and unites us. And we do that numerous ways. Of course, we have our Win for KC Luncheon in June. We have our Sports Commission Awards Banquet. We had the fortune of planning the Super Bowl parade. We planned the World Series parade. So we have plenty of celebrating going on. But even celebrating at the Win for KC Triathlon, cheering on someone that's crossing that finish line for the first time or for the 10th time, is so critical to celebrate those small victories or those big victories like a Super Bowl. So again, our 3 words in our office: participating, spectating, and celebrating.
I love words. They just are just so powerful. I thought about you a lot this weekend where I watched a little bit of the NFL draft for the first time. I live with a sports nut. And you were there the last couple seasons, I believe. Is that correct, at the NFL draft?
So I've been to the NFL draft for years. Actually had gone to New York a couple times and worked in a television production truck and a crew working the draft. And then when it moved out of New York, have been with it every year now, attending now in my role to try and attract the draft to Kansas City.
Talk about, so how will that, I think that what I heard is that was it Houston that's supposed to hold the draft this year?
So Vegas was to have had the draft this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they get it next year now. So how does that impact everybody down the stream? No,
they won't. So that's the interesting thing about sporting big events like that. They're awarded out for years to come. The NFL draft has been awarded. 2021 is in Cleveland, and in Kansas City, it's 2023. They were actually working with a couple other cities for 2022. Well, since they hadn't awarded 2022, Las Vegas will now host the NFL draft in 2022, the year right before we do.
Okay, I missed that part. I heard them say they weren't. I'm like, well, wait a minute, they plan ahead. So,
Yes, yes.
well,
I'm
first,
working on events now through 2027.
wow. So when you think about pre-COVID, and I think I know the answer to this. What was your biggest challenge pre-COVID?
Oh, our biggest challenge pre-COVID. Ooh, that's a complicated question for us. Um, so our biggest challenge is really probably engaging and letting people know what we do. We're that behind the scenes company of getting events done. We're really truly a sports events organization when it comes down to it. And then how do we survive off of that? So just telling our story over and over and continuing to grow what we do as a business was probably our biggest challenge.
I thought maybe you'd say time. Because what's it feel like to have not been on a plane for the last 6 weeks?
Oh, it's interesting. My travel schedule for April and May is I normally am home a couple days within those 6 weeks there between going to a national convention every year, Big 12 basketball meetings, the NFL draft. I mean, I'm just constantly going April and May. So it has been somewhat nice to be home selfishly.
Yeah, and your husband travels a lot too. Has he been hanging out with you a little bit?
Yes, he travels Monday through Friday, and they have a no travel in place right now for unforeseeable future. So we're all here at home. And I'm working in my laundry room if you haven't figured that out yet.
I've not figured that out. Well, I've had to build a new office at home because Crystal and I actually shared an office, but we can't be on Zoom together, obviously. And I
Yes.
actually kind of love it. I actually set my desk up today, so I'm pretty darn happy. I may want to stay home more. I have to figure out how to maybe just adjust in my office at my home office here. So Kathy, I've admired you for years and watched how you just really show up for people and for your friends. And I see some heads shaking and they agree with that too. What's some of the best guidance you've been given during this time? Because you're not just a local figure, you're a national figure on this whole sports team. You've even spoken internationally. So what's the guidance people have been giving you?
Back to that word fear, that it's okay to embrace that fear and admit that I don't know how this is going to play out yet. I'm pretty much an open book. I think my staff would tell you that, my friends would tell you that. But I think that to say that I'm a little nervous and I'm scared at times because nobody seems to know, no one's guiding us on how you bring sports back online. So that's one thing, is just to say, I really have no idea how we're going to bring people back to go to a Royals baseball game or how to run our marathon. I haven't figured that out yet. And then to not feel that I'm alone. So again, my now makeshift office in my laundry room and the door is shut, can be very lonely. But to know that I can pick up the phone and call any one of my counterparts across the country and actually now across the world, connected in Switzerland on so many levels with Olympic committees, and just knowing that everyone is feeling the same thing that I'm feeling and that I'm not alone in this and that I don't have to make these decisions alone. And I think I knew that ahead of time, but it's become so clear and obvious how much we need people, that to know that you're not alone has been some really good advice.
Makes me think of that. I'm not going to get it right. Maybe the 10th monkey, how we're really a monkey over there, 500,000 miles, not 500,000, couple thousand miles away could be doing something. And yet the effect is felt here. And so it'll be interesting to see how we come together. I wonder what we'll be talking about 20 years from now.
So my daughter Hannah, who's a junior in college and living with us now, I keep saying, you will tell your grandkids what you were doing. She's like, stop saying that. And I go, but think about it. And she goes, yeah, well, you'll be telling your grandkids too. I'm like, I know. What will we say? What will we explain how we survived? Will we say, I remember the day when, like we can all talk about 9/11. I remember exactly where I was standing. And I remember exactly what I was doing when that happened. Will we have that same thing? Will we go, I can say I remember exactly when we decided to not host Big 12. I have that. But does everyone have that? And just saying that I stayed home for others, that's what I hope we remember from all of this, I think.
What has been some of the gifts you've gotten from COVID-19 stay at home?
Do you mean physical gifts or blessings?
I actually mean that's a great one. No one's ever asked it that way back to me. I would say both. Let's start with physical.
So one of our women who mean business friends sent these great blue glasses
Mhm.
because we're all on our computers more and more. So this is helpful.
Thank you, Betsy.
Yes, this is wonderful. I can't believe how often I use them actually. Didn't know that I needed them that much. That's one. Um, Here's some funny signs, I think, physically for me. My husband hung a picture behind me in my boring, flat, white laundry room. So at least when I'm looking at myself, I see some pop of color. The other gift is he has a home office because if he's not traveling, he offices here at the house. So we moved into our new house back in August of last year. So we made sure he had a great office. Well, so now I'm in my laundry room. His gift to me is we've set up conference room B in our house that is in our foyer. So we decorated it so I can sit out there in the foyer and host in my conference room B a second place where it just feels different to me and it have a different, interesting background. So that was a nice gift. But blessing wise, one thing that I've really noticed is how much more I focus on connecting with friends and family. I text my mom every day. I don't always call her every day. Tonight we have our family Zoom meeting with my brothers and my nieces and nephews. I'm like, why didn't we do that before? It doesn't. So I have nieces that live in Springfield. My brother lives in St. Joe. We don't get to see everybody often. Why don't we do a once a month Zoom? But like that blessing of course, we're going to continue to do that now. And then just being very proactive on reaching out to people. I'm embarrassed to say I had friends and family that I hadn't talked to in months, and I just felt the need to check on them. Why didn't I feel that need before? So I think that's a blessing to me that's come of this. Of it's okay just to check in on people to say hi and not have an agenda.
What do you think about has your day been broken up at all? I know for me, I was typically pretty much here or there and then back
Mm-hmm.
here, but it was usually a little here, a little there, and back here. And like this afternoon, I'm going to go for a bike ride. So, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to take a break.
Yeah.
Have you been able to incorporate any of that into your life?
We try and walk every day. My daughter works out every day intensely, so I try and join her once in a while, not as often as I should. It's weird. During the day, I am much busier than I was before. So that's one thing I need to work on and fix. My days start by 8 a.m. and I've had to make a mental point that at 6 o'clock, I've got to shut it off. And I didn't ever really notice that. But both locally and then serving on a committee for the mayor right now, and just all my other board members are all virtual. So now you just go back to back to back to back. And that's not healthy. So I'm trying to figure that piece out because it does seem to be intrusive of my lifestyle. I'm used to getting in my car, having time just to download or some peace for me. And I miss that. I miss my windshield time. That I've really noticed that my day isn't broken up. Like you're saying, I really haven't left our house. I've been to the grocery store twice. So I got to figure out how to get out of here more often.
What if the whole crew had a little break between 12 and 1 or whatever? I'm just an idea. I'm just thinking about how do we start to, we used to say, put yourself on the calendar. And for
Yep.
me, other people have access to my calendar. And if people look at my calendar like, oh my gosh, how do you deal with this? But I have it blocked. And it
Yep.
doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily do that every day. But if I don't put it on there, I'm for sure not going to happen.
Yeah. I twice a week I'm on a national call on Wednesdays with a group of about 40 of us, and then on Thursdays with just a small group of I think there's 7 of us, and learning from them some things. And one of them shared that they have young kids at home, so they're homeschooling, so they have twice the amount of work that I do right now. I have no idea how you do that. So their organization blocked from I think it's 10 through the lunch hour, and then another break for an hour in the afternoon, like 2:30 to 3:30. You cannot host calls, meetings. Do not expect them to be on email. That's their time to be with their kids to homeschool and to take a break for lunch. Like, that is brilliant because really, when it comes down to it, when we are in the office, and even though we're there for 8 or 9 hours, we really get a few hours of work done. So I think to understand that now and appreciate that you can still get that amount of work done and don't feel like you have to be on your computer for 8 hours, it's fine. We're still getting work done. So I was going to try and adopt some of that idea. We don't, our staff, there's only a couple that have young kids at home, but still just that respect of you're going to need that time to help your kids with their homework, I think is very important.
Well, it's interesting. I've had both schools. I've had people that are totally not working at all. Okay. And then I have people that are working more than ever. And it's like, whoa, that's just, it's that all or none. Speaking of all or none, and we've got some listeners that aren't from the metro area, but as you're thinking about, you've actually had the privilege of being in the inside scoop of what's going on with Mayor Lucas in Kansas City. What are some of the gifts from that, and what is some of the pressure? You know, Billie Jean King, who we hosted at Win for KC, said pressure is a privilege.
Yes.
Are you guys feeling that now? Or are you guys like, holy sugar?
Yeah. I'd say I definitely feel the pressure to bring our events back online, one, so we can continue payroll. But the pressure of, if we start to do this, of, you know, bringing sports back, the pressure of how do you keep everyone healthy? I think your question, though, is about serving for the city in that role of how do I come to the table and just be a sounding board. So I've had the honor of knowing Mayor Lucas for years. He was a council member, and then he was elected, of course, closely tied together, working through events. And of course, we were able to work through the Super Bowl with him. So really got to know him as a friend at that time, and through the Super Bowl parade, you know, it's all the details that come with working closely with the city. And then this happened. And I think we have the relationship where we can text back and forth. And as we made that Big 12 decision, he and I were on the phone daily of, hey, here's our conversation. This is the conversation at the NCAA level. How does that play along or impact the city's decision, and vice versa? So I think just open communication with him has been very critical. He's actually helping me out on Wednesday. He is a webinar guest for our national organization of sports commissions called ETA, Sports Events and Tourism Association. He is one of 2 mayors across the country that will serve on the webinar to talk about the importance of relationships in the city and working with your sports commission. So it's definitely a two-way street, which is very much a blessing.
What do you, I hear the sports, and you may know I'm a huge Win for KC fan. It's my, and I can say this out loud because it's true. It's my favorite luncheon of the year. Huge. This would have been my, and hopefully we still do it. They're my 13th triathlon with Win for KC. I did miss one due to a little incident, but when you think about our city, aren't you just proud of the way we've reacted? Oh. You know, I think we definitely have we flattened the curve, and I think about Governor Kelly. I know some people are, because of the economic impact, but wow, I mean, I'm talking to people, hospitals. The hospitals aren't super busy, which is a good thing. I don't know, Michelle, if you agree with me, but that's probably a good thing. The hospitals aren't busy.
Yeah, I'm very proud. I know this is not going to be easy. And when it comes to that economic impact, you know, by making that decision, Big 12 early on, I knew my heavy heart of, my gosh, people will never be able to replace that revenue. But I also think we can't replace lives. So when we start making these decisions with Mayor Lucas, and then I'm serving on a committee for him, we've called it KC Hearts. And we did our first event this last week, KC Hearts Tailgating. This week it's KC Hearts KC. So moving forward, it's what is our city doing for each other just to make sure we're okay and celebrating our city. I couldn't be more proud of. Of course, there's recovery committees happening and working with all the medical experts. But then to have the mayor say, I want a committee that's focusing on the well-being of just how we are doing and not how do you take a temperature, that's a big deal. Like that, to have a mayor say, I've got time to make sure I check in on our city just because, I couldn't be more proud of that.
Yeah, well-being, such a big word. I don't know if you know what well-being means in the dictionary.
No.
Happy.
Oh, well, there you go.
And so how do we ensure people are happier in that connection? And from a healthcare perspective, there's so much awareness in my mind about staying connected with the people. That's one reason why we're doing rhythm and resilience. I get some feedback every day about what guests they liked or where there's a typo and all the great things people do. So thank you so much for paying attention to those. I really appreciate that. This is a great time if you have questions for our amazing sports commissioner. Head of the Kansas City Sports Commission, Kathy Nelson. It's a great time for you to ask us questions and start sharing your love as we start to wrap up. Is there a habit that you've picked up besides the Zoom call with your family that you want to continue post-COVID?
Oh, maybe, no, I haven't picked up any good habits yet. I should start working on that. We have some funny things. I don't know if it's a habit we would continue, but like for our college daughter at home, it was always sad when she left to drive back to school. We'd say, bye, I love you. So now when she goes downstairs to go to bed, we say, bye. So that's kind of funny every night because in her world has been changed forever. She's president of her sorority right now. She's missing out on what that is, right? She works for the business school. She works for the athletic department. She can never make that up. So you got to have some fun during this. I think that's one thing I have. Maybe that's a habit, is that we try and laugh every day and share funny things that have happened. You know what? I actually do have something that we do, having dinner together every night. It's been decades since we've been able to do that. And just that, my husband always says, what did you do today? What did you learn today? Like, that's really interesting. We've never shared that much about our jobs before. And because we just didn't have time. He was either gone. We don't spend this much time together. We haven't since, well, I can't remember when we spent this much time together. But just to say, tell me how your day went, that's a habit I could see us sticking with for a long time. And even as he starts to travel again at some point, in myself, that daily text message, we could go days, I'm embarrassed to share this, without really communicating because our careers are both so busy and sports happen at nights and weekends and he's busy during the day. So I think that just now realizing the importance of checking in on each other daily, I think we'll really miss that when this goes away. And I think that could be something we continue, and probably saying bye via text to our daughter every night.
So Kathy, if you had a magic wand, knowing everything you know from being, I'm going to call it sometimes you're inside those conversations I'm glad you're the person inside that conversation because I trust and I respect you so much. So thank you so much for doing that. But if you had a magic wand, what advice would you give us, or what would you like to see?
Oh, I had a magic wand. Well, one, I would love to see, and I know this will be months down the road, is what does it look like for us to sit at a football game? I would love to understand how that feels, what that's going to look like. I would love to go, okay, in November, we're back at Arrowhead on Sunday, and the day before I've been to a Big 12 football game. I just, that kind of stuff is my magic wand right now of making us appreciate those opportunities to celebrate together. I think that's probably where we all miss that right now. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question of how you expect, but just to appreciate and get back to that sitting next to each other, high-fiving and doing the magic wand of it's okay to hug each other and high-five. That's what I want back. That would probably be what I'd like to fix.
Yeah, I really appreciate that magic wand. Okay, let me see. Eleanor, are there questions over there? I'm sorry, I'm so intently focusing on Kathy that I haven't seen questions. I know there's some love going over there, which is awesome. What do you think is your medicine that you share with the world?
What is my medicine?
Sorry, it's tough questions.
Yeah. So there's strengths finders, right? And learning my strengths. And one of them is woo, is one of my words. And I don't think
that makes perfect sense.
Funny. Woo and conductor, like I'm a band conductor, bringing everyone together to get your stuff done. There's so many, those words are so spot on. It's almost kind of scary at times. But when I think of woo, I don't think of winning others over to support me. When I think of my woo, I think of winning others over to support our girls at camp and girls, advocating for girls participating in sports. And my woo is, wooing the mayor to help us figure out the Super Bowl parade. And that's what I think I bring to our business, to our industry, to our city, is that woo effect of getting everyone together, at least to connect the dots and to talk things out and to support. Back to that participating, spectating, and celebrating. That's my woo in a way.
Participating, spectating, and celebrating. That's going to be a quote that we get from today. Kathy, I have to tell you that, I've admired you for a long time, and I can see the woo, and you have a smile, and you have this charisma that just pulls people in, and it's such a wonderful gift. What I want to do is I want to wrap up and first of all say thank you so much. I know you're super busy for saying yes today. I love to always end a little early if I can, because I know what it's like to have an extra 5 minutes in your life that you weren't planning on having. So I'm going to give you back some time. That's something I always think about. Can I give somebody back some time? They always say, ask for more than what you need and give back extra. Don't take more than you need.
Love that.
So I want to I'm going to read some of the chat where people are loving you up a little bit. And once again, Michelle K, happy birthday. We're sending you lots of love. Thanks for spending it with us today. Eleanor, I admire how lighthearted you are with decisions that could have been carried a lot of weight. I'm sure they carried a lot of weight, but you still were lighthearted about it. Michelle, I agree with you. I actually watched a little bit of the draft, which is so crazy because of the sports.
Yay! That's awesome.
Yay! Your decision to save lives over dollars has not gone unnoticed. And once again, the thing that actually, Joel Goldberg said to me, which really made me call you, and I just hadn't even thought about it yet, was avoiding that Mardi Gras moment. And it takes a lot of courage, especially when it comes to sports in any city, but especially Kansas City, where we probably had the national champions here. No pun intended, Joan, that the Jayhawks probably were going to be the national champions. Yeah. But we'll just assume that was the case. So, and thank you for hosting that, for all the stuff you do with the triathlon and the girls. If you've never, who's been to a Win for KC luncheon? Okay. Joan, you could come up from Ohio next year and go with me. Michigan? No, you're Michigan. You're in Michigan, not Ohio. Michigan. And Eleanor, anybody else wants to go, I'll have a table. It'll be fun to go. But I just want to once again tell you how you inspire me. The way you say yes to your girls, the way you parent your girls is the number one way you inspire me, and the love you have for your family and for this Kansas City community, and the way you're mentoring. I get tears thinking about the way you're mentoring Jessica and the team of young women underneath you. And the way you just are part of the Women Who Means Business family, how you just have come in, it's like you've been there the whole time. So you are doing an amazing job in our community, and we are blessed to have you. Would you all agree? Thumbs up on that one.
Michelle, to you are truly top of my list for people that I admire, because you have that hug and the open embrace of, let's just talk this out. I can always go to you and go, can you believe what's happening? You're like, yep. Okay, now what? So I do appreciate the friendship more than anything. And so flattered when people go, hey, will you join me for this? I'm thinking, what would I have to contribute? I learned from all of you. And I think what you just said about my girls, people are, somebody asked me, what's the hardest decision you're making? And one thing we didn't touch on was Camp Win. But having two daughters, they're now ages 23 and 20. They're both getting ready to have another birthday, which is not even fathomable to me that I have girls that old. But we started Camp Win when Haley was 6 or 7 years old. And we started with 50 girls. And we wanted to do that because we've been doing these different monthly sporting events where girls could go and participate. We decided to make a camp of it. And now I look at the impact we've had on thousands of girls in our community. My two daughters being, to me, most important, they grew up through camp. They came up as team captains, and then they even still give back as volunteers. And I think, what happens this year if we can't host camp? Does that mean that now I'm going to cry, but does that mean that we're missing an opportunity to touch a young girl's life? That's what's heartbreaking to me right now. There's so many positives that will come from this, but it's hard not to live in the moment of what's not happening.
Yeah.
I don't mean to end on a sad note by any means, but just it's crazy when you think about I'm on a call with you right now because of what's happening.
Well, we're going to turn this into a positive. We're not going to end in a sad note. And once again, we're celebrating, guiding, connecting, which provide hope. So we're celebrating you, the sports commission, of what you're doing in Kansas City, especially Win for KC. Once again, I got some other people. It's the best luncheon in the city for many reasons. One, because you get to see the legacy, the impact. And you've given us some good guidance today, and people can connect. So I'm guessing if we have some people listening that are thinking, you know what, I want to do something, they probably could donate to the sports commission.
Absolutely.
So how do we do that?
So sportkc.org, there's a donate option there. We have so many events right now that either will go away or go virtual. We just encourage you, if you've signed up to do the triathlon and we have to figure something out, stick with us, we'll be back. But easily those dollars as a nonprofit, we don't receive public funding. And so your support is how we activate our staff. And that's critical to us.
Well, and if you weren't going to do the triathlon and you're thinking you might want to do the triathlon, now's a good time to sign up. Or you could just sign up and just donate your money. That's a good idea too. Or just donate your money to sportkc.org. Well, once again, thanks for joining me today. I don't like to swim. Well, Michelle, they have a duathlon now. You could buy it. Did you know that?
Duathlon. That's not an excuse. No
more. Yeah. They took the water out of there. I'm with you on that. The bad news is I have decided I was going to do it every year the rest of my life. And I'm one of these people, when I tell myself that, I've got to honor my word. And so I say it out loud, and I've missed 1 year because of my accident. But otherwise, I started doing it originally with Brenda Van Lingen, or we actually ran each other. We'll do this through our 40s, right? And then we turn 50 and we're like, okay, well, we'll do this. Okay, well, just keep doing it as long, it keeps you in shape. Hey, I want to remind you that, first of all, thank you again. I'm going to give you a big old heart hug, and I'm going to give you a big old squeeze when I see you in person. Anyhow, we have a guest tomorrow. Oh, Dr. Jay Dunn. And tomorrow is Total Health Tuesday. And Dr. Jay Dunn talks about genetics. She actually just launched a new platform around happy genes to kind of counteract all the suicide and depression and anxiety. She's one of my mentors on the whole genetic movement. She's out of Florida. She's wonderful. She'll be with us tomorrow. We've got a great week on tap, and then we'll start just going Monday, Friday for the month of May. And we have some great guests as well. Just every single day, you're just such a gift. I want to remind you too that because of Fun Friday with Casey Cruz, Luke Wade, we'll be doing bingo on May 6th in the evening. So hopefully you'll join us for that. Joni, you can join us from Michigan, right? Michigan, I got it right. right there, dude.
Luke is fantastic. I love that. That's great.
Joni's a woo. Can you tell? Michelle, you're a woo too? That's so funny. All right. Miriam, you're not a woo, are you? I'm not a woo. I'm a connector. All right. Blessings to all of you. Have a great week. Let's do this. Bye.